Hey there. Ever catch yourself like just daydreaming, about what cool tech we'll be using in a couple of years?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, buckle up because today we're taking a deep dive into a prediction of the must-have gadgets of 2025
That sounds fun. Where are we getting this glimpse into the future?
from a podcast called Smart Buys with NewGenBox, an episode called Top 5 Must-Have Gadgets of 2025. The host is really into online shopping and finding deals,
Uh,
which adds an interesting layer to their predictions.
yeah, it's like peeking into both the tech world and the consumer mindset all at once. I'm curious, what's the first gadget on their list?
First up is a smart ring that monitors your health. Imagine all your health data tucked away in a stylish piece of jewelry.
Oh, wow.
No more bulky fitness trackers.
That's interesting because it suggests that as health tech advances, the design is becoming just as important as the function. It's not just about collecting data, it's about integrating that tech seamlessly into our lives and even making a fashion statement.
It does make you wonder, though, what kind of health data will this ring even collect? Will it just be the basics like steps and heart rate, or are we talking about something more advanced?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of how we balance convenience with privacy. Imagine this ring tracking not just your movement, but also sleep patterns, blood oxygen levels, maybe even glucose levels for those with diabetes.
Wow.
It could be incredibly valuable for preventative health care, but it also raises questions about who has access to that data and how it's being used.
That's a really good point. It's amazing to think how much potential there is for a positive impact, but also how important it is to consider the potential risks. Okay, on to the next gadget. This one is probably right up your alley, especially if you're all about that digital nomad life.
Okay.
It's a foldable, portable monitor.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. So much of our work and entertainment revolves around screens these days. What makes this one stand out?
The host of the podcast was raving about how lightweight and compact it is when folded, but then it unfolds to give you this great big display. They said it's perfect for remote work,
Yeah.
but also amazing for gaming on the go.
I can see the appeal for sure, but it also makes you think about the future of workspaces. If we can have powerful portable tech like this, does the traditional office even matter anymore? Are we headed towards a world where work and leisure are completely intertwined and we can switch between them seamlessly wherever we are?
It's almost like the line between working from home and just living is getting blurrier and blurrier, and honestly, that's pretty exciting, though maybe a little scary too.
Definitely a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to consider these possibilities. Now, I'm curious, what's the next gadget on their list?
All right, get ready for this one. It's a Bluetooth shower speaker.
A what?
Yes, you heard that right. A waterproof speaker with voice assistant capability so you can belt out your shower tunes. A&D, ask Alexa to add shampoo to your shopping list.
Okay, I have to admit that one made me chuckle. It seems like a perfect example of how tech is finding its way into every nook and cranny of our lives, even the shower.
Right. And it makes you wonder what's next. A smart toothbrush that analyzes your brushing technique. A refrigerator that orders groceries for you before you even realize you're running low.
Well, some of those already exist. But you've hit on a key trend here, the increasing personalization of technology. It's not just about functionality anymore. It's about integrating tech into our daily routines and personalizing our experiences. Even something as simple as a shower can become an opportunity for entertainment and connectivity.
It's amazing how quickly we've gone from carrying around clunky cell phones to having tiny computers on our wrists and even potentially in our shower heads.
Right.
It seems like every day there's something new and more advanced.
It really highlights how technology is constantly evolving to become smaller, more powerful, and more integrated into our lives. But it also begs the question, what drives this constant innovation? Is it purely consumer demand, or are there other factors at play?
That's a great point. I mean, I love the idea of having all this cool tech, but who gets to decide what's actually a must-have versus just a novelty?
Well, there's definitely a marketing aspect to it. Companies are always trying to convince us that we need the latest and greatest gadgets, even if they're just incremental improvements over what we already have.
Like, do we really need a new phone every year?
Uh,
I mean,
It's like they're playing on our fear of missing out, right? That if we don't have the newest thing, we're somehow falling behind.
exactly.
But I think it goes deeper than that. These gadgets often tap into our desires for convenience, efficiency, and connection. We're constantly looking for ways to make our lives easier, more productive, and more enjoyable.
So it's not just about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about finding tools that genuinely improve our lives, or at least that's what we're led to believe.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in. As consumers, we need to be savvy about distinguishing genuine innovation from marketing hype. We need to ask ourselves, does this gadget truly solve a problem I have? Or is it just a shiny new toy that I'll get bored with after a week?
It's like that saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because a gadget exists doesn't mean we have to buy it.
Precisely. It's about being conscious consumers, making informed choices that align with our values and needs, not just blindly following trends. And speaking of trends, let's get back to those predictions. What's next on the list?
Okay, prepare yourself because this next one is either a dream come true or a potential nightmare, depending on how you look at it. It's an AI-powered smart vacuum.
Ah, the promise of a robot that does all the cleaning for you. It's certainly an appealing concept,
Yeah.
but as with any form of automation, there are both potential benefits and risks to consider.
Yeah, on the one hand, who wouldn't want to come home to a perfectly clean house without lifting a finger? But on the other hand, it makes you wonder what happens to all the people whose jobs are replaced by these robots.
That's a valid concern,
Hmm.
and one that we need to be grappling with as automation becomes increasingly prevalent across various industries.
It also makes me think about the potential psychological impact. If we become too reliant on machines to do everything for us, do we lose some sense of self-sufficiency and accomplishment?
That's a fascinating question. There's a certain satisfaction that comes from taking care of our own needs, from completing tasks and seeing tangible results.
It's like we're trading convenience for a part of ourselves. Not that doing chores is anyone's favorite activity, but there's something to be said for taking pride in maintaining your own space.
Absolutely. And I think that's a key point to remember when we're considering the role of technology in our lives. It's not just about what technology can do for us, but also about how it shapes who we are and how we interact with the world. It's about finding a balance, leveraging technology's power without sacrificing our autonomy and sense of self.
Okay, that's a lot to digest, but is definitely making me think more critically about how I interact with technology. So, last but not least, what's the final gadget prediction? This one is truly futuristic, a wearable translator. The podcast host described it as this tiny device that can translate languages in real time, allowing you to have seamless conversations with people from all over the world.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. The implications of such technology are truly vast. Imagine the possibilities for travel, business, diplomacy, even just everyday interactions.
It's like suddenly the entire world becomes accessible. You could travel to any country and instantly connect with the local culture without any language barriers.
It's certainly a tempting vision, but as with any powerful technology, there are potential downsides to consider. For one thing, there's the question of accuracy. Machine translation has come a long way, but it's still not perfect, especially when it comes to nuances of language and cultural context.
And what about the impact on language learning? If we can rely on a device to translate everything for us, will people be less motivated to learn new languages?
That's a valid concern.
Mm.
Language learning is not just about communication. It's also about cultural immersion, about understanding different ways of thinking and experiencing the world. If we become too reliant on technology to bridge language gaps, we risk losing out on the richness and depth of cultural exchange.
It's like taking a shortcut through a museum. You might see all the highlights, but you miss out on the details, the stories, the context that make the experience truly meaningful.
That's a great analogy. Technology can be a powerful tool for connecting us across cultures. But it's important to remember that true connection requires more than just words. It requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to engage with different perspectives.
It's wild to think that in just a couple of years, we could be walking around with devices that instantly translate conversations. It makes me wonder what other seemingly impossible things will become commonplace in the future.
It's truly mind-boggling to consider the pace of technological advancement, and it makes these conversations all the more important. We need to be thinking critically about the potential impacts of these technologies, not just on our individual lives, but on society as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. You've definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm looking at these gadgets in a whole new light now. It's not just about the cool factor anymore. It's about understanding the broader implications.
Exactly. And those implications can be both positive and negative. Take the AI-powered smart vacuum, for example. We talked about the potential for job displacement, but let's delve a little deeper into the psychological effects. If a machine is doing all the cleaning for us, do we lose something in the process?
It's funny you should mention that because I was just thinking about that. There's a certain sense of accomplishment that comes from taking care of your own space, even if it's just cleaning the floors.
Absolutely. There's a sense of agency, of competence that comes from completing tasks and seeing tangible results. It's a fundamental part of the human experience.
So if we're constantly outsourcing these tasks to machines, are we at risk of losing those essential parts of ourselves?
It's a valid concern. And it goes beyond just cleaning. Think about navigation, for example. We've become so reliant on GPS that many of us have lost the ability to read maps and find our way intuitively.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean,
Absolutely.
like, our brains are getting lazy because technology is doing the thinking for us.
In a way, yes. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Technology can free up our mental energy for other, more creative pursuits.
Yeah.
But we need to be mindful of striking a balance. We don't want to become so reliant on technology that we lose essential skills and diminish our own capabilities.
Right. It's like anything else in life, moderation is key. Technology can be an amazing tool, but it's important to use it wisely and not let it take over completely.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that's a perfect segue back to the wearable translator. We were talking about the potential impact on language learning and cultural immersion.
Right, and how it might create a false sense of understanding even if the translation isn't completely accurate.
Exactly. It's like reading a book in translation. You might get the gist of the story, but you're missing out on the nuances of the original language, the author's voice, the cultural context.
And those nuances are often what make a story truly come alive. They add depth and richness to the experience.
Precisely. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind as we navigate this rapidly evolving technological landscape. Technology can connect us in amazing ways, but it's important to remember that true connection requires more than just words. It requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to engage with different perspectives.
Well said. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on the future of technology.
I'm glad to hear that, and I hope our listeners feel the same way. The future is full of possibilities, and it's up to us to shape it in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
So as we look ahead to the must-have gadgets of 2025 and beyond, let's remember to approach them with both excitement and a healthy dose of critical thinking. Let's embrace the potential of technology while also being mindful of its limitations.
And most importantly, let's remember that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or ill. The choices we make today will determine the kind of future we create.
That's a powerful thought to leave us with. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep shaping the future you want to see.